Hi everybody, I'm Buck. Thanks for watching The Power of Words. Last time I started to share a book that I wrote, the first book that I've published, called A Child Shall Rise, and today I'll continue on with chapter 2. So if you've just started watching this is chapter 2 of my book. Please go back to chapter 1 so you don't miss anything. 5 days had passed, and James and Janet, despite endless discussion and consideration, were no closer to reaching a decision than they were the day they met William Blake. Jared, though enjoying the time with his family, missing seeing his classmates, who now were not even allowed to play with him because their parents said he was dangerous. The Nova household had been inundated with communications from upset parents that claimed Jared was practicing witchcraft or that he was some kind of a freakish mutation. James was in the middle of discussing with his wife the possibility of moving to another district when the communications console beeped an incoming message alert. "Delete message," Janet said sharply, unable to bear the thought of any more accusations about her son. "Unable to delete," the console answered back. "Mr. and Mrs. Nova, this is the poet," a voice came quickly over the speaker. "I apologize for overriding your system, but this is an emergency. You were right. The agency wants to use your son. Get Jared out of that house and to a safe place immediately. They're coming for him now. Take him somewhere no one knows, no family or friends, and don't talk to anyone until I contact you. Please trust me. Do it now." The comm went blank. A sleek black hovercraft glided along the streets, its tinted windows hiding the occupants from sight. "A scrambled transmission has just been sent to the target house. Can you trace its source?" "Working on it, but we'll have target acquisition in 7 minutes. William Blake ended his transmission, dropped the comm unit to the ground, retrieved a blaster pistol and his agency field bag from his desk drawer, set a digital timer on a small device, and placed it in the middle of his office. One last look around, and he punched his private code into the door activator. The door slid open with a hiss, and in the hallway, 2 uniformed men leveled their blasters at him. They were large men, taller and broader than William. Agency security, he thought to himself. So this is it. Think fast, or you're a dead man. Down the corridor, a soft chime came from the turbo lift, and the doors opened. The security men were distracted for a split second, but that's all it took for William to hit the door activator and dive out of the path of fire as the door hissed shut. That'll buy me about 30 seconds, he thought, thankful that all doors in the agency were designed to resist blaster fire. The security men punched an override code into the activator, and as the hatch slid open once more, something rolled out of the office and tumbled toward the men. The timer reached 0, and an explosion rocked the top floor of the agency, sending building rubble and pieces of security officer flying into William's desk, which was pushed across the office by the force of the explosion. William's ears were ringing as he crawled out from under his desk, and for about 15 seconds he didn't even notice the alarms wailing. Time for Plan B, he thought. Looking quickly around the room, he noticed the ceiling panels nearest the explosion had been blown away, revealing a 2-foot gap between the support structure and the roof. William climbed on top of his desk and jumped up, grabbing onto one of the support beams and pulling himself up. He then worked his way to the corner of the room where some of the ceiling panels were still intact, and distributing his weight as much as he could, laid down, concentrating on breathing as quietly as possible. They'll be here any moment to investigate the explosion. I should have put more thought into Plan B. James' mind was racing as he processed what he had just heard. "Janet, grab the kids. Leave everything. Meet me in the hover car. We've got to go now." Janet looked surprised. "What? Just like that? How do you know we can trust him?" "I don't know, but I'm not sure we have any other option. Couldn't you hear the desperation in his voice? I don't think he was faking that. And if the agency is after Jared for some reason, I don't want to be here when they get here. We'll figure everything out later. But for now, we need to get the kids and get out of here." Janet raced off, thinking of the fastest way to get 5 kids down from the 2nd level and into the hover car. Intercom on. "Kids, we're going to the racquetball match. You have just 2 minutes to be in the car, or we leave without you." James ran to the lounge room and removed the hollow chip that Mr. Blake had brought from the projector, then punched a button on the communication console and spoke. First Planetary Bank, District 14, this is James Nova, authorization code 761B539, Nova. Close all active accounts and have a non-registered credit chip available for pickup in approximately 15 minutes. In transmission. Janet had managed to get all 5 children on board and was just powering up the hover car as James leapt in. Let's go! They raced off into the dark of night, careening down deserted laneways towards the business section of the city. Hey, Roy said, this isn't the way to the racquetball stadium. It's back that way. James turned in his seat to look at his children. Sorry, kids, we're not going to the racquetball. Aw, Dad, Bill complained. Mom said we were going. The rest of the way to the bank, James quickly explained what was happening, as best he could, and asked the children to bear with him until they figured something out. As they approached the bank, Janet could see the lights on in the drive-up window. She pulled in and slowed to a halt in front of the window. James leaned across her and shouted toward the microphone. Hello, is anyone in there? A well-dressed man in his late 60s appeared at the window. James, this is highly irregular. If you were not such a good customer and friend, I would never have agreed to this mysterious after-hours transaction. Even so, I've taken the precaution of activating 2 security droids. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, Nigel, but I'm in a hurry and don't have time to tell you what's going on. And I need to ask one more favor. If anyone comes around asking questions about me, tell them you haven't seen me for days. Alter the records, erase the hollow files. Will you do that for me, Nigel? Of course, James. I owe you at least that much for all you've done for me, but it will take time. I'm transferring the funds from your accounts to an unregistered chip as we speak. Wouldn't it be easier to use credits for your payments, or instant transfer? The only people who use registered chips anymore are those who are on the run, Nigel. I told you, I don't have time to explain. How much longer till it's ready? It's finished now. But James, whatever you're running from, I think it's here. The sleek black hovercraft with the tinted windows had appeared behind the Nova's transport, and before Janet could engage the drive, they were caught by a grappling beam. Not only did it prevent them from moving, but it carried a governmental override code that shut down all onboard systems. James and Janet Nova, exit your transport immediately with your hands behind your heads. James looked around at his family as he reached down to retrieve the blaster pistol hidden under his seat. James, no! Don't! They'll kill you! What choice do I have, Janet? They want our son. James opened the hatch and leapt out of the transport, bringing his blaster to bear on the nearest agency troop that was flanking his vehicle. But before he could fire, he was hit by a bolt of blue energy that knocked him to the ground. Janet raced out of the hovercraft, followed by all 5 children, to James' side where he lay motionless. You killed my dad! Pam screamed as she ran toward the attackers. One of the agents grabbed her and held her by the throat. All of you stop and hold real still, or this one gets her neck broken. No, please don't. Don't hurt my children. We'll do whatever you want, but just don't hurt them. Then kneel down beside your husband with your hands behind your head and tell your kids to do the same. When your husband comes around, make sure he doesn't get up. He's alive? Janet felt a wave of relief wash over her. Okay, kids, do what the man said. We'll test this one first, said the man holding Pam by the throat, as he pulled a small device from his pocket. Running the device over Pam's head 3 times, he saw that it emitted a red glow and made a slight humming sound. Nothing. This one doesn't have it. The soldier shoved Pam away, ordering her to kneel with the rest of her family. Now the little one, the agent said, pointing toward Jared. Mommy? Jared looked fearfully at his mother. It's okay, Jared. Don't be scared. Just do what they say and everything will be all right. As the agent nervously neared Jared, blasters on the black hovercraft targeted the little boy. The second troop had exited the transport, where he positioned himself to have a clearer shot. Whoa, boy, this one is lighting up like a Hyblorian sunrise. The device, as it passed across Jared's head, glowed blue, yellow, green, and red. Instead of the hum it made when used on Pam, it beeped loudly every time it was moved over Jared's head. We knew this kid had it. His head is almost as strong as Buzz. The second agent sent him a quick look that cut him off before he could finish the name. So whatever Jared has, he isn't the only one, Janet thought. But what is it he has? As more questions raced through Janet's brain, she saw the agent holding Jared put his gloved hand over her son's face and press a button on the side of the glove. The gas released was invisible to her eyes, and she watched as Jared slumped, unconscious, to the ground. Jared! What did you do to my son? Janet's emotions were about to explode over. He's fine as long as you cooperate with us. Roy, Gary, and Bill, in turn, each were tested, with the device only humming and putting out a soft red light for each of them. They were of no interest to the agents. James Nova was just starting to come around as Janet was being tested by the device. What was all he was able to get out, still feeling like he was engulfed in a thick cloud. He felt something bounce off of his chest and heard it hit the ground in front of him. Looking down, James saw a small earpiece with a note attached to it that said, "Put me in now." James looked around, confused. Then movement through the bank window caught his eye. It was his friend Nigel, who had been watching everything unfold from his vantage point, hidden behind a desk. Nigel motioned for James to put the earpiece in. Making sure no one saw, James carefully bent down and picked it up, fitting it in his ear. James, if you can hear me, blink twice. Good. Now listen, because we don't have long. I don't know what you did, but I do know something's not right here. I've still got the 2 security droids activated, and if you signal me by touching your nose, I'll give you a diversion. Quick, take the earpiece out. They're almost finished with Janet. Mr. Nova, stand up slowly. Keep your hands behind your head and walk backwards toward me. The agent tested James with the device. This one's clear too. I'll put the boy in the shuttle. As the agent turned to pick Jared up off the ground, James realized this was his only opportunity to try and keep them from taking his son. Looking straight toward the bank window, he made an obvious motion of raising his hand and touching his nose. Security droids, code 171, protect Nova family from hostile attackers. Hidden hatches on both sides of the bank window slid open and 2 cylindrical droids emerged. Both droids already had their head turrets locked onto the 2 agents and fired stun beams, dropping both agents in their tracks. The agent carrying Jared fell next to the shuttle door, which quickly opened, allowing another man to reach out and scoop Jared off the ground. As the droids focused their attention on the black shuttle, James yelled for his family to quickly get in the hovercraft. Nigel appeared to the bank window holding a blaster rifle. One of the security droids was cut in half by blaster fire from the agency craft, but the second droid had managed to launch a concussion grenade that rocked the black ship, causing the grapple beam to deactivate. "Save your family!" Nigel yelled out as he lay down cover fire with his blaster rifle. James knew that if they left, they had lost Jared, but if they stayed, they might all be killed. Fighting against his own thoughts, he forced himself to run to the family hovercraft, which Janet had already fired up. Meeting Janet's agonized gaze, James heard himself say 2 words that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Just go! As the Nova family sped away, James saw Nigel cut down by laser blasts. The second security droid, after causing significant damage to the black shuttle, was shot to pieces. "What about Jared?" Roy cried out. And that's it for Chapter 2. Leaving you on a bit of a cliffhanger. Bit of background information on that. I named Jared's brothers and sister after my own brothers and sister. Pam, Roy, Gary, and Bill. And the main character, Jared, I named after my own son. And the bank manager, Nigel, he was named after a good friend of mine. So I put a lot of myself into the story, or at least people I know. All right, well, I hope you liked Chapter 2. I'm Buck, and this is The Power of Words. Tune back in soon for Chapter 3 of A Child Shall Rise.